And we're back. Finally, after 3 months hiatus, the VHS Boys podcast is back. And today we're going to be talking about the John Woo film from 1997, Face Off.
John Woo.
And to join me, we have my pal, Jonathan. Jonathan, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing good. Yeah, just, glad to be working with you again. Yeah, at least we're doing it on a podcast and not on set.
Yeah, since the movie industry has collapsed, we have to do a podcast now so we can work together.
I think everybody has to.
Jonathan is a sound mixer.
Yeah.
That's your title, correct?
My only specialty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that or boom hopping, because, a lot of times I take a little bit of break and, I'll go help out with other sound mixers, do the boom operating.
Do you remember the awful film that I met you on, Jonathan? In I think it must have been 2018 or something. Maybe it was 2017.
God, yeah, that was before the pandemic. Do you remember what movie that was?
I remember it had a racist cop in it, and he was like,
oh yes, I remember.
He was hassling some black guy.
Yeah.
It was very it was around the time of the police videos going viral and shit.
Oh yeah,
so super inspired by that.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I got it, and we had a meeting and everything beforehand, so I got his intent and everything, and I was like, all right, cool, more power to you. But this is a movie that we shot, we thought was going to do great, and did our things. I have never seen the movie, so, yeah.
You thought it was going to be great and do great. I knew it was a piece of shit the whole time.
Well, yeah, everyone has their own outlet to it. I'm like, honestly, I'll give it a whirl, because even then there was some movies that I thought were going to be great, and then it turns out they're not really that great. And
or sometimes you meet people and you think they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they actually do a decent enough job. So I try not to be judgmental of people in the film industry. You never know. You never know.
And then even then, it's just what was it? Yeah, you just got to try it out. And even one movie that we had was a feature film, and it was just jarring, just working for the director on it, and plus I saw was it lighting department quit, line producer quit day one, script supervisor quit day one, and I was just I have no clue how this movie's gonna happen. And then now I see it being streamed on Tubi. Yeah.
Dude, you should tell the audience about your experience working with auteur filmmaker Glenn Danzig.
Oh God, yeah. And that was that was just a pickup day, and even then I was like, it was kind of worthless.
How many days did you work with Danzig for?
I only worked one day. It was only one day.
And this is Danzig's vampire movie.
Yeah, it was.
House of the Midnight something or other.
Something like that. Yeah, it was the only thing is mine was a pickup day for. What was it? I guess they were shooting some stuff out in the desert. Yeah. And I remember the call time was at 1 in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning, we get there and stuff. And then all right, let's go and get rolling and stuff like that. And then Glenn got there and Glenn got there and he just started screaming and yelling it's cold. I drove 3 hours to get here. What was it? I should pack up my stuff. Where's my crane?
It's cold?
Oh, God, it was 18 degrees outside or something like that. And even at one part, the girls in the Western stuff, what do you call those? The burlesque kind of.
They were dressed like old Western whores, basically.
Yeah. And then she was on a horse, and then she's riding through the desert and stuff. And then at one part, she finally got up, and she goes, I don't know, I'm shaking, but I'm kind of hot. And then all of a sudden, that's when
hypothermia.
Oh yeah, that's when they the safety set medic was like, that's hypothermia, so we're gonna have to get a bunch of blankets on you and have you in the middle of a heater. And it turns out the trailers that we got, the heaters weren't working on the dang thing, so that's the reason why.
Can you imagine dying for a fucking Danzig movie?
Well, I think there's a lot of people died for less, so it's just that's the role you take on these things. So yeah.
I've been chasing this guy ever since I joined the force. He has no conscience, and he shows no remorse. He's the mastermind behind numerous bombings and political assassinations. He has a felony list a mile long: murder, arson, kidnapping, terrorism, you name it. He's the most dangerous and brilliant criminal mind I've ever known.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
Face Off was the third Hollywood film directed by John Woo after almost 2 decades of working in Hong Kong, where he gained international notoriety from films like Hard Boiled and The Killer. His success brought him to Hollywood, and he was not a failure in Hollywood. He had a pretty decent run, but I don't think the U.S. films he made are actually better than the ones that he made in Hong Kong in the mid to late 80s, which is kind of what happens. Like when these people get pulled from where they're really succeeding, like when you take Jackie Chan from Hong Kong where he's making these like great films, you bring him over to America to make bigger films, and it might work well enough, but I don't actually think the work gets better. I think when you have this beautiful exotic bird flourishing where it exists, putting it in a cage in a zoo doesn't necessarily lead to the best outcome. So even though John Woo's American films have bigger budgets and bigger stars, there's a disconnect when he's making films for an American audience that's very apparent.
Yeah.
And especially when you're watching Face Off.
Yeah.
I'd like to take his face off. Yes. Excuse me, I have to use the little boy's wee-wee room.
My theory is that John Woo's American films have awkward acting and direction because John Woo doesn't actually have a great grasp on the English language. So I don't think John Woo noticed how bizarre the delivery and performances are in this film because he barely speaks English.
Right.
So when you're watching BTS of Face Off, it's just like shots of John Woo at a monitor, just like kind of nodding like he looks confused.
Besides the great action sequence, it also have a lot of great sense of humor. And you feel it's a really a fun movie to watch.
I love how there's like a lot of like hero shots or slow-mo, and then you see pigeons flying through the thing.
The guy is he's so talented at shooting action. That's like really where like the shots are fucking beautiful.
Oh yeah.
This movie's great until people start talking.
Oh yeah.
It gets kind of weird.
Well, plus on top of it too, it's just like I was just laughing about what was it, Nicolas Cage's brother in that one, because like there were parts where it's like, yeah,
who the fuck came up with these names? These names of the characters, they're like, nobody is named Pollux Castor Troy.
Castor Troy.
That's the fakest sounding name.
Well, even then, it's like I still read scripts today, and I'm like, what is up with his name? And like, they're not the common names, and I'm like, are we just making it exotic so hopefully it attracts you into it?
Just like to be more interesting than naming your character Doug.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sam or John.
Yeah,
or like something plain Jane, you know.
Let's go, I'm bored, let's go.
With this movie, it feels like John Woo is just, he's amazing at shooting action sequences, but then when it comes to like directing Western actors, he's completely out of his element.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels just like Nick Cage and John Travolta just did whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
Which is a terrible idea. Like, there's a reason why Nick Cage and John Travolta don't direct films.
Right.
It's because they're both fucking insane.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like,
well, you know, honestly, like I think that came down a lot of his movies and stuff, because like, the one that has that realm of it that I saw a long time ago that has that kind of feel to it and things like that, but it was still like, in my end, it's pretty entertaining. What was Broken Arrow?
John Woo, he did Hard Target, and then he did Broken Arrow. And apparently he was very dissatisfied with the amount of creative control he had on those two films.
Right.
So when it came to doing Face Off, he insisted on having like full creative control. And he got that, and they let him like rework the script. The script had been bouncing around Hollywood forever.
Which is the movie that he had full control over?
This one, Face Off.
Oh, Face Off, yeah. Well, like, that's why a lot of people are very like, I want full control, but sometimes the problem is that you see that it's badly put together sometimes because they're not the script writers, so they just are that's their interpretation of it, and that's the issue too, is they have to get a producer in there that will be like, no, it has to sell. We gotta, we can't have any weird stuff or like, all art shots and stuff, and like the movie's still a piece of junk, and like that's why there was still probably like some correction they need to do on like for people, and that's why it's like there's a lot of times, unless like a director has been shooting for long times and they know what's up and they have that right at that point and be like, I know what needs to be done to get this movie done. And like, some, it might be like, even I've seen like where they're going like, hey, this dialogue's going too long. Can we cut it back or whatever? And then you would see the director like, why are you messing with me? Like, let's just get done through it. We can edit this thing in post if needed it to be. But technically, I'm just trying to get what I need to make sense at the end of the shot,
Yeah, and I think, people hear so often about, like, cases where, like, the studio ruins a movie, and I'm sure that does happen. But I think what also happens is sometimes the studio actually has the right notes. Sometimes the studio actually fixes the movie.
Right.
You just probably don't hear those stories as often because if it ever all works out, there's no story to it anyways.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, sometimes the studio might actually be the voice of reason and come in and kind of fix things.
Well, yeah, because they're the ones who invested into this movie, so they're the ones who have to recruit the money back. Where it's like directors get paid at the end of the day, and it's like if it's also too on the realm that they want to make money and stuff like that, but also too like the if you're really good at directing, you're also like, I also want this to be my retirement check. Like, I don't want to just have it done. It turns out it's a real piece of crap, and people are just just ragging on it.
Face Off is a hard movie to review because I enjoy watching it, even though I know it's bad. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to have to recommend Face Off and rate it at 3 stars. It's easy to see why this became a cult film, but it's bizarre to read what critics said about this when it actually came out.
Yeah.
Because they all praised John Travolta and Nick Cage's performances in this movie. Even Siskel and Ebert loved it. Mm-hmm. And these performances are so profoundly ridiculous and laughable. Yeah. It's hard to imagine that in 1997 people thought this was like good acting.
Wait, you good looking. You're hot.
It's like looking in a mirror, only not.
But you were...
In a coma? Nothing like having your face cut off to disturb your sleep. Read the newspaper lately?
So I don't believe Face Off is actually streaming anywhere. There is a Blu-ray available and there's a 4K disc available. Where'd you watch it?
I actually went on like.
Did you watch it illegally?
Yeah. Of course I did. Yeah.
Don't worry about that. He had a VHS.
I found it somewhere, some source.
Okay. So if you want to see Nick Cage and John Travolta just completely untethered, doing whatever they want, and not being utilized in a way that makes their performances at all believable, then you should watch the movie Face Off.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, do you want to give a rating out of 5 stars and whether or not you recommend the film Face Off?
I would say by your ratings for fun ability, I would put it up there on 6 just for the heck.
Oh shit! Yeah.
But if you were for seriousness, it's going to be in 3.5 because honestly, it was just like I think it's just entertaining to watch it, but for you to be at the end of the day, be like, man, I'm going to watch that again, or I was blown out of my mind and stuff, and it's like. Oh, well, no, honestly, it was great. 2 hours, I'll check back in 10 more years and see how that is.
Whenever I meet somebody who likes Face Off, I'm like, do they sincerely like Face Off? Because there are people that actually think this is like a brilliant thriller. Some people just think it's funny.
I think it's kind
of a little bit of both, right?
I think it's a little bit both. And plus, also, I think John Woo came out with another movie that I thought it was like entertaining and stuff like that. And it was like a newer updated one was, I think it was Paycheck.
Paycheck. That's like early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw Paycheck.
Yeah, it was the one with what was it? Ben Affleck is in it, and he's a designer, and I guess he designs a machine that you can look through the future and stuff. And I guess that's what the guy did, and I guess even Ben Affleck eventually wakes up with a paycheck. And I think they blanked his memory and stuff like that so that he doesn't remember anything. And I guess it eventually starts to come back to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I guess it turns out the guy who hired him is trying to have him assassinated or something like that. But at the same time, too, the machine worked for a little bit. And then I guess before he got his memory wiped out, that he sabotaged it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. John Woo returned to directing very recently. Might have been 2021. Really? He made a new movie.
Let's check it out.
I've heard it's not great.
Well, honestly, yeah.
It's a real bummer to leave for like 10 years and then come back and be like, eh.
Yeah, and then plus on top of it too, it's just honestly, people stuff. Maybe they thought it worked in late 90s and stuff, and it's just not going to work today.
Yeah, and honestly, man, it doesn't fucking matter. John Woo is such an influential filmmaker. Nobody can ever take that away from him. Every time you see one of these movies and the hero entering with the fucking birds flying everywhere and shit, it's all came from John Woo.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a lot of sons in the industry, a lot of people who have copied off of him, and
yeah.
The dude is profoundly influential, and no one can ever take that away from him. He's a fucking brilliant director.
Yeah, well, even then, it was just what was it? I still like Broken Arrow out of all of his movies that he's made.
Okay.
And the funny part...
Dude, I fucking love Hard Target.
Hard Target?
Yeah.
Jeez, I gotta watch that.
Jean-Claude Van Damme doing the Cajun accent.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is Face Off actually won an Academy Award for sound editing.
Oh, well, hey, you got if it's not.
It's a Hans Zimmer score.
Right. Well, he's always gonna be like pretty in there because like not only that, after seeing his composition for like what was it the Batman movies, the Nolan ones, like I was just like, whoa, I'm really sold in on this.
Yeah,
but
it's funny that like I mean I've heard also like Die Hard in 1988, like the way that they used gun sounds. Was groundbreaking. Like before 88 when Die Hard, the gun sounds in movies were so canned and it was like the same gun sounds over and over again. It was really shitty.
Oh yeah.
So like this is when sound got so much better in movies.
Oh yeah. Well,
into the 90s.
Well, it was just iconic that like back then, like sound design was a big thing, and even then it was you got to realize a lot of these movies and stuff. I'm seeing things and I'm like, that's ADR, and that's why when you see it, there's no big straight. They're talking off to each other or they're shot dirty and stuff. So you could see that back then it was like the set you're on, the cameras you had were so loud, and the technology.
I didn't even think about that, but shooting film back in the day was fucking loud as fuck.
Well, the technology too to clean up your audio wasn't really there. A lot of times they would have to use a lot
of ADR.
Yeah, so they just said it's just cleaner if we do ADR, and that's why you would see that ADR was a big thing, and it's only until recently, I would say, like a little bit past 2000s, that like the technology caught up to clean up the audio and
so like when you're watching a movie shot on analog film, is you just assume a lot of it is ADR because they were so loud?
I can guarantee you it's 100% ADR.
And so you're saying the change with that really came in with digital cameras in the early 2000s,
100%.
which is really more like the 2010s.
Well, once the cameras got updated for their digital upcoming and stuff like that,
which
so did
also
audio.
a lot of the first gen digital cameras were loud as fuck.
Oh,
I guess it's not as bad as film rolling.
Right. Yeah, you would hear the clatter from the sprockets just feeding the film, and I was just like, well, that's what it is. And even today, I've shot on a couple old film cameras and stuff, and luckily they have the smaller 16 millimeter ones and things like that. And they're you still can pick it up on the audio and stuff, but the technology is caught up where it's like learn that, remove it out, keep
easier
the dialogue.
to remove now.
Yeah. So it's just like it's just over time that the technology is here to help you.
It's kind of crazy the technology shift that we've seen in our short time in the industry, because like I even remember when I first got out to LA seeing BTS photographers with like the old school shutter cameras and the big blip on the camera.
Right.
And now, I mean, DSLR cameras are mirrorless. Now you can just shoot BTS photos without making noise.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Well, not only that, like with you were subjected to tape too as much.
Also, didn't tape in audio kind of last for a while because people were really nervous about digital losing all the info? Well, I remember a sound guy telling me that they used to run tape and digital for like a long time.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is also too, when you run audio on tape, you're in an analog system, and it's like it's you have rusted domains on it that do negative, positive for the waveforms and stuff.
Okay.
Where we're running ones and zeros, so it just replays it over or recreates.
Yeah, and if something fucks up with a hard drive, a lot of times you lose everything. But if a piece of tape gets fucked up, it's like you just lose a little piece.
Well, no, technically, if you go over with a big magnet,
you can erase the electronic tape.
Erase it. That's how we used to do in studios, is to Gauss the system so that what was it?
But I think that can happen to a hard drive too.
Well, like now with solid state drives, not so much. It's just like it works till it's dead and it's flopping in and out, so it's ones and zeros. That's all it is, and just recreating it. Yeah, and basically it's pretty clean to the point where it's like.
Yeah, I've been super lucky about not having like a hard drive go bad. It's never really happened to me.
Oh yeah. Well, even then, most cameras I see on solid states, and it's like, they're like, honestly, like
they're pretty bulletproof at this point.
They're pretty bulletproof, and there's issues with it. It's like go to Best Buy or Target down the street and go get me another hard drive.
Yeah.
The old ones were like, no, like especially tape. It's like we gotta call a specialist. This is gonna have to be developed. And
and I guess like the other edge of that sword is that like. 30 years ago, you could buy a fucking film camera, and it was viable for like decades.
Oh yeah,
like the piece of the equipment that we used to be able to buy,
it
was so shitty, like it just lasted forever because the technology wasn't changing that quick back then. It was like 35 millimeter film was the thing from like 1958 to like 2008.
Oh yeah.
So it was, you know.
Well, even then, like a lot of the camera equipment back in the day were probably like handmade on a lot of things. So it's like they had people overlooking it and checking the quality control and making sure it's great and stuff.
Yeah.
Where here we're
mass-produced garbage.
Machines price, and mass produced and printed boards and everything like that. So it's like, you know, they'll just like, you know, good 50% this is going to work for a long time or it might fail. And it's like they reproduce so much that like we don't have to hire a special for it. So we'll just print you out a new one, you know. You just return it and we'll just junk your stuff and then use the new stuff.
Face Off is about an FBI agent named Sean Archer, who's played by John Travolta, and his arch rival, a terrorist named Castor Troy, who's played by Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yeah.
And here's what's interesting about this. Castor Troy, he's like a terrorist, right?
Yeah.
But he has seemingly no political motivations at all.
Yeah, exactly.
He's really like a Saturday morning cartoon show villain.
Just like totally insane.
Vague.
Trying to hold the world,
He has
man.
no motivation.
Yeah.
He's like a sociopath, but like the characterization of Castor Troy is really bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like the gold guns and like, ooh, the box. He's got to have joints and candy and like.
Yeah, what was that one, that Chitty Axe or whatever it was? That used,
the what?
The Chitty Axe gum or whatever it was. It was popular.
The Chiclets.
Yeah, Chiclets, yeah.
It's just like he's this guy. He's always got to be doing something.
Yeah,
it's like really
right next to
weird.
his drugs, you know.
Like he's fucking 17. It feels like a 14-year-old wrote this fucking movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, it might have been, you know what I mean?
Well, the guys who wrote it, they actually stayed on the script the whole time it was like going through. Like usually, you know, somebody will write a script, it gets taken to a different writer and rewritten. The same writers were on the script the whole time it was being passed around Hollywood. It was passed around Hollywood forever.
Right.
It started as like a futuristic thing, and they took that out and shit. But so Archer and Troy have a long stemming rivalry because Castor Troy is responsible for the death of Sean Archer's son.
Yeah.
The film opens with a scene of Sean Archer on a merry-go-round with his young son, and a mustachioed Castor Troy attempts to shoot Archer, and the bullet, I guess, passes through him and kills his son.
Yeah, I was like, and put the end. Could have been on its own.
Well, also, it's like Castor Troy never takes a second shot.
Yeah. Or,
all right, you missed and you shot the guy's kid. Now shoot him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it was a guilt kind of thing that they were trying to play because, like, technically he thought the kid was no longer around him because he didn't see the kid anymore because that's originally how he didn't take the original shot.
Oh, okay.
Because he saw the kid on the merry-go-round.
It's like spinning and
then
he spins towards
and then
the
I guess
dad.
he holds his son and stuff and he shoots him in the back and it turns out where he got shot was his son on the other side of his body and got headshot on that.
I mean, it's a relatively slick and clean way to set up that these guys are arch rivals.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't really the worst thing in the plot here.
Yeah.
But so then we fast forward 6 years and Castor Troy is injured in an FBI raid, which leaves him comatose after he reveals to Archer that he planted a bomb somewhere in Los Angeles.
Right.
Which they might have explained this better in the film. I don't even remember like how they really are going to make money off of this bomb.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit vague. But this leads Sean Archer to reluctantly undergo a highly experimental face transplant procedure to take on Castor Troy's face and voice and appearance. So Archer as Troy is then taken to this like high security prison, which is like underwater.
Yeah.
This is like another element that feels like it's like the futuristic sci-fi part of the film that just kind of like remained in there. It doesn't really make a lot of sense.
No.
That was big in the 90s too. It was like sci-fi future prisons, like Fortress, and there's a lot of fucking movies like that. The whole goal of swapping the faces is so he can go to the prison and try to get the location from Pollux Troy, Castor Troy's brother.
Yeah. Which was a character I was laughing about too because he's like supposed to be a
what's
psycho.
his deal?
I don't know. Supposedly,
is he like slightly autistic or something? Pollux
something
Troy?
like that.
It's a
But it
little
was
bit
like,
off.
but he can call his brother and tell him like, hey, you know, XYZ is happening. Knew where the bomb was at and stuff, but he couldn't tie his shoes. Like, I was like, what?
Well, that was a character flourish that I think John Woo added. It's the Castor Troy tying his brother's shoes, and Sean Archer always doing that weird little face thing on his family, which is like touching their faces.
Oh yeah, the touch of the face, and even when what was it?
Nobody does that.
Oh yeah. Or the best was like, what was it when John? This is back when they had the face switch off later on, and what was it? Troy's brother gets shot at one of the what was it, places at the raid or whatever. And we're just laughing because John Travolta is sitting there with this gun. He's like, Like, you know, it was just like so dramatic, you know, just like, whoa, this is a little.
Oh, when when the guy's like, "Why are you upset? That's Pollux Troy." Does
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
talking to Castor
yeah, and
Troy.
shoots him in the head. Yeah.
Yeah. So next plot element here is Castor Troy wakes up from the coma with Sean Archer wearing his face.
Yeah.
And he takes Sean Archer's face, which you think would be kind of obvious to not let that happen.
Yeah.
Like lock up your face or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, even then, it's just like in a regular jar of water, just like anyone can go and just check it out, or like even the janitor just throws it away.
Yeah. So now Archer has to escape this future sea prison and defeat his mortal enemy who is living as himself and having sex with his scraggly wife.
Yeah.
Played by Joan Allen. That's also key here. There's a cuckold element to the film Face Off because apparently Eve Archer can't tell the difference between her husband's penis and that of a complete stranger. So while Sean Archer is stuck in the underwater prison, his wife is getting railed by the guy who killed their son, which is kind of twisted.
Yeah. Well, actually, that actually fits the guy's character because supposedly the guy was supposed to be.
That makes enough sense. He's supposed to be like a sociopath.
Because later on down the line, when Nicolas Cage is like going to a hideout, and it was his old hangout with his buddies and stuff, and all these women are coming like, oh man, like weren't I a special thing to you? And then his real wife was there. It was just like, yeah, and it was just like,
well, the next plot point is Sean Archer finds out Castor Troy is deep dicking his wife, so he violently rapes Castor Troy's brother in the underground sea prison, which is honestly the only plot element in this movie that makes sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't actually happen.
Yeah, no.
That would be how you get back at him.
Yeah,
You know, he's fucking your wife. All right, I'm gonna rape your little brother.
Yeah,
in prison, violently.
Oh God. Yeah, I was looking at that. I was like, what in the heck is going on here?
Yeah. And just like, I guess what's very hilarious about this movie is just the idea of a face transplant happening in 1997.
Yeah.
Is pretty hard to buy. It was, obviously this was supposed to be like a sci-fi thing, so it probably made more sense there.
Yeah.
When they made it like contemporary.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Do you remember the lady in Connecticut who got her face ripped off by the chimpanzee?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And she went on Oprah with like the veil on, and Oprah was like, "Show everyone your face," and she pulled it up and she looked like the fucking Toxic Avenger.
Oh yeah.
That's what a face transplant looks like.
Oh well, like even then it was just like they were guys with different blood type and they're trading faces.
Yeah,
and it's like, when your body start rejecting it?
Why would they make them having different blood types part of the plot when they have to switch faces? That seems kind of short-sighted.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird scenario. So.
Yeah.
Or the fact that what was it, Nicolas Cage, when he like wakes up from his coma and he didn't have a face on, and it's like, honestly, you didn't bleed out or whatever. You just sat there just like jungle.
Like, how's that? Where he got a piece of Saran wrap over his fucking face or something?
Yes, so it looked like it was gauze. You know what I mean? It's
like they swap faces and look completely normal. It's like, in reality, they'd look like the Gary Oldman character from Hannibal. They would look fucked up if they tore their faces off.
I have to give them props. That's probably why they got some nominations on this, though. Is like, Nicolas Cage was Nicolas Rage in the beginning, just like crazy and of course a terrorist with no plot. Yeah, over the top. And then later on when they swap him, like he was very calm, relaxed, things like that.
So they are emulating the other character. It's just that
they were emulating.
The acting was bad before they swapped.
And then that's the thing too that what was it? When it's Castor, right?
Castor Troy is
Castor Troy when he's now John Travolta, and John Travolta had to act as his character, and he has to be calm, relaxed, just looking for revenge, and just bitter and depressed, and it's like no, he's having fun and stuff like that, especially like slapping butts on the people in the office and going.
Also, there's like a moment in this film where both characters they start to like empathize with their enemy because they're wearing his face. And it's like it doesn't really go anywhere. It's like they do it a little bit with Castor Troy and Sean Archer's family where he like there's also this brings me to another funny thing in this movie. Extremely pathetic scene where Danny Masterson tries to rape someone.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I was just like, whoa.
Danny Masterson, who is now a convicted rapist, plays a rapist in this movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, am I just renewing the role in real life? What's going on here?
Talk about perfect casting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they probably took him out and they're like, hey,
what
this
happened?
guy's natural.
Was Danny Masterson raping women before he played this character, or did playing this rapist bring him to a dark place where he was then taking advantage of women?
Don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, because like the thing is, like he started off like pretty successful on what was it, the '70s show and stuff. And
that '70s show, I think that was his thing. I think he might have been a child actor first. But
yeah. Well, I think what was it?
Dude,
70...
he's in fucking prison right now.
Yeah,
like,
I know. I like once I saw him on Face Off when I was watching it the other day. I was like, wait, what? Like yeah, but that's how it is. Is people would just end up as a small character and stuff, and later on they get bigger roles and they take off, and
it's just very ironic. He was playing the rapist in this movie.
Oh yeah, I know. Once I saw that too, I was just like, I'm like, was this before or after the conviction? Yeah.
But anyways, John Travolta, who's now Castor Troy, like stops the rape and gives the girl a butterfly knife to protect herself. Which plays into the plot later.
Yeah.
So he's like being good.
Oh yeah.
Which doesn't feel right.
Yeah, well, I guess he had to act the role around them and stuff. But it was funny though. It's the thing
I don't know.
that backfires
I think like he
on.
actually is like getting empathy for his enemy through having to live in his shoes. Is what they're kind of trying to get in there, but it just doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say because I didn't know where this was getting taken though. But I remember there was a part too where like he was having a phone call with the other FBI agents about like how to execute and stuff like that. Missions and things like that. And I was just like, this guy is just now living the realm of being an FBI agent and knowing how to capture the enemies.
Yeah, well, once he becomes Sean Archer, Castor Troy's plan is to like just exploit being a fucking FBI agent, which is for examples of this, see every FBI agent ever.
Yeah.
It's like, he's probably pretty well suited to be in that job, actually.
Yeah.
But the movie has a great, like, very John Woo ending. It almost feels like when you watch this movie, you're just kind of seeing all the John Woo stuff recycled into this Hollywood film.
Right.
Like, it ends with, like, there's pigeons flying everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I was laughing about that.
And that boat crash at the end is fucking excellent, dude.
Oh, yeah.
The way it's shot and, like, just John Woo is a master of shooting action.
Oh, yeah. It was just so hilarious, though, because a lot of times that they would have these, like, stunt shots and stuff like that. I was looking at some of the stunts and I'm like, well, you can kind of tell it's a stunt actor and stuff.
Oh, I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
The boat scene in particular, like you see them both so clearly launch from the boat.
Yeah.
And I didn't have so much time to prepare for this, so I wasn't watching the movie over and over again.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, like, can you tell if it's the stunt performers? Is it clearly stunt performers?
Well, especially the one part where Nicolas Cage jumps from the prison that's on an iron or on the oil.
Prison's on a fucking oil rig?
Yeah, he's on an oil rig. And like at the end he like jumps off and he's like flying in the water and stuff. Yeah. And it's like clearly not Nicolas Cage because like I don't know if they even properly did the haircuts or even try to find a stunt guy that looks exactly like him. And
also the idea of having a prison on an oil rig is so short-sighted. Yeah. Because like that could just lead to so many problems.
Right.
Like, what happens if, like, shit goes wrong and the prisoners take over this oil rig?
Yeah, exactly.
Then they have a huge amount of leverage.
Yeah.
Like, oil is so valuable and, like, important to, the global economy. Like, they could
Well, I was even laughing at the one part where they had the little boots that magnetic keep you down or whatnot. Oh, okay. And I was looking at it and I was like, did they take these one from the movie Super Mario where they had the little boots that
it just looks gravitate? Like they recycled the same prop.
I'm like, did they get like 10,000s of these and just started using them?
I bet you that shit happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's just like you ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
Yeah.
With Luke Wilson. The funny part is like I didn't even notice, but I remember like when he goes to prison and stuff, you start noticing the shoes, and I'm like, they're goofy, they're weird.
Isn't it? What are they called? Those weird shoes, the Crocs.
They're Crocs. Yeah,
you know why they use Crocs in Idiocracy?
Well, because they wanted.
It was a budget thing.
It was a budget thing, and they needed the cheapest thing that they had. And this company goes, "We're a brand new company, and we're making these for dirt cheap. So, like, if you guys want to take them and use them, use them."
Yeah, you can wear our very comfortable 3D printed shoes.
Yeah,
and it ended up being kind of brilliant because years later, it's like people who wear Crocs are like,
I go to
fucking morons.
I go now to the hospital sometimes to go see my doctor, and he's wearing them like all the time, and I'm like, yeah, he's standing around walking from patient to patient, and the Crocs are like,
I guess they're comfortable. They look so uncomfortable.
I don't know. I heard it's because it's very you got a lot of rubber and stuff that when you're walking and stuff that it's not like flat hard was it,
It's like good
platform,
support.
it actually like bounces back, so you're not like hitting your heels all the
Okay.
time and just wearing out on your bones and stuff.
Fucking ugliest shoes ever. man.
Ugliest things ever, but people loved them, and Idiocracy was the one movie that like got them in the realm of getting noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. I don't know. I think I pretty much touched on everything I wanted to say about Face Off, Jonathan.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, like, if you got anything, just feel free to, shoot away. But, yeah, honestly, I think it's like, it's a thrill kind of thing. Seriousness, no. But for thrills, yeah, it's great. And that's why, like, John Woo is still a master of, like, these shots, especially explosions. And was it boats flying into each other and, trying to rip the other one's head off with a propeller?
Yeah, like, the movie looks great, man. Like, I'm telling you. If you edited this into like a silent film, it'd be a fucking masterpiece.
Oh yeah,
but watching the actors interact with each other.
Well, all we need is Hans Zimmerman just like produce a lot of music for this, and we'll just have the movie with no like dialogue or anything. I
found a video online. I'm having trouble finding it again, but there was this great BTS video of John Travolta and Nick Cage doing a scene in Face Off, and like, it's just so funny because they're like doing the scene and it's so bad, and then they break and everyone's like clapping and being like, "Holy shit, guys! This is some of the most amazing acting we've ever seen."
Yeah,
and they're just like so up each other's ass with like patting each other on the back about it, and they're so pleased with the whole thing. And it's, we watch it now and it's so bad.
Well, I think at the time they're just like, I think I'm trying to reach what it is.
Well,
and
I think actors are very like putting like the direction in the hands of the actor is a huge mistake.
Yeah,
because actors just want to go big and they want to be the center of attention and they want to like, you know what I mean? So like their instinct to go too big, I think, is always there.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with theater kids.
Oh yeah,
these are crazy people.
Yeah. Well, well, you got to realize, like, every film is a theater play. It's just that we're filming it versus them.
Well, the camera is getting so close. You don't have to act so big. You can make the acting more subtle in a film and acting in like a broad theater way, which is what this movie feels like. It feels like theater acting.
Well, like even then, it's just like, on these like filming stuff. Yeah, it's a theater act or whatever, but you only have to put up for like 5-10 minutes and then back to yourself. Where it's like, not like a real theater where it's like you're being the character for like 2 hours. Even like your realm of coming out of it for a little bit was intermission, and it's like you got 30 minutes to go get a cigarette, get a cocktail, just like, all right, now back into the acting. And, and then then you got to relive the what you call it, the life of that character. And on top of it too, the one thing I have to give props to theater actors is like they always know their roles, like, or their dialogue and stuff. Yeah. Where it's like, on film, it's like there's a lot of moving parts and stuff, and you got to do action on top of it. But for theater and stuff, it's like you gotta
really rely on yourself to tell stories, as opposed to the artifice of filmmaking, which kind of does it for you.
And it's just like live sound. When I would do it, if you screw up the live sound concerts and stuff, everyone knows it. Yeah. Where it's like, on the film stuff, we're like, that wasn't great, let's do another one. And that's why,
dude, sound guys on music festivals and shit, they're very serious people. Because I have to shoot at festivals where you have to like try to go and get the sound from these guys, and like they take that shit so seriously, and like they're kind of annoying, to be honest with you. Well, but I get it.
They're in their realm and stuff, and on top of it too, it's like, they're very like actors prepared for their role, and they don't want to screw it up, or it really looks bad on them, or they'll be out of a job. Yeah. Where like for me, I'm like, a lot of times when I'm like, I made a mistake or something, which is common and stuff like that, I'm like, hey, can we just go for another take? And they're like, are you sure that last one? I'm like, we already know where we're at. Let's do another one. And at least like now the audio will match what we shot, versus me just like, the older movies like, oh, well, kind of screwed up. Like, we'll probably have to ADR this movie. So we'll just, on editing show like a shot dirty over someone's shoulder where we don't see the character talking.
Yeah. I mean, we could make fun of this movie, but at the end of the day, it worked out. It was a huge financial success. It was the 11th highest grossing film of the year.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it won an Academy Award for fucking sound effects editing. And this and probably Mission Impossible 2, I think, were like the peak of John Woo's Hollywood career.
Yeah.
So he went on to great success after this with Mission Impossible 2. And then I think that was kind of his biggest film, unfortunately. Yeah,
well, like, honestly, like, there's some directors that I'll see that they made a really masterpiece, and then later on after that, I don't know what the heck happened, but like, you know, it's kind of like what was it when I watch what was it, The Matrix? I thought it was an amazing movie from there. And then like, you know, when the second one came out, okay, that's just fine. Third comes out, fourth, and then whatever it is now, I watched that one. I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't even know.
I don't think there's any more disappointing drop off after a great film than the Wachowski sisters and The Matrix.
Yeah.
They never made anything that was good after that, right?
Yeah.
Was Cloud Atlas okay? I don't think I ever saw Cloud Atlas.
I have not watched it. I've heard some pretty decent things about it, but I haven't, you know, been told like, oh my God, it's like you know, mind changing. Like you have to go watch it now. Where, you know, I'm trying to get on those realms, and it's kind of hard these days to get on that and stuff. And I would say the last movie that I had that was like, I would say mind blowing and stuff. For like, you know, a movie that doesn't have any score to it was No Country for Old Men?
No Country for Old Men is fucking a masterpiece. Yeah,
it's a masterpiece. And I was just like, I will watch that again and again and again. And I remember when I was going to school for music composition and like, was it sound design for sound and stuff? They go, this movie is so well written, well cut, and well put together that there is no score. And I'm like, full of crap. And when I watched that, I'm like, there's no score. Holy
I didn't even
crap.
notice that.
Yeah,
I
go watch. I think it's only
I love No Country for Old
the
Men.
intro and the credits. Other than that, there is no score. And I was like, holy crap, this professor was right. And I'm like, oh man.
It's also like Joel and Ethan Coen after they'd already been doing it for a long time, and they were just at the top of their fucking game.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the fact that, like, you know, honestly, like, they had some slow beats here and there, but a majority of it, there was always some kind of thrill and just hypes you up and gets you through that scene. And
I think No Country for Old Men's kind of low budget. I think they made that after they had some bombs. They had a couple of films that didn't do good.
Yeah.
And that kind of brought them back.
I think so. And then I think this was one that they actually took their time to shoot it in New Mexico, because at that time it was very affordable and stuff like that. But I was like, you know, whatever magic or whatever they did on this one, like, it's brilliant. And I'll go, you know, way out of my way to watch it again.
Yeah, I agree with you. We should do New Country for Old Men sometime. That's actually a great fucking
movie.
think
it's a great movie. Yeah, and then what was it? There's other movies too that we could always do from the 90s and stuff that, you know, are just like...
I'll bring up one last scene of Face Off that I think is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
That is the scene where Sean Archer finally gets out of prison and he still looks like Castor Troy.
Yeah.
And he goes to like see all his criminal accomplices or whatever. I think Nick Cassavetes is the bald guy.
Oh.
The scene where he says the title of the movie like 3 times.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to take his face off.
Yeah, I was like dying on that. I was like, oh my God. And
it's
then like
so bad. And
even
that
his brothers
that was improvised. That was Nick Cage.
Well, I think it was needed because I think it actually sold it. Because, like, honestly, like, they could have went, they could have went through the scene more and more. And I think Nicolas Cage was like, there needs some like little punch into it to at least like, you know, get it in there. And it's like, you know, he's getting high and
it's often attributed that like when you say the title out loud in the movie, it's like a big no.
Oh yeah, but it was hilarious. Where like, what was it? The bad guy that's there, and he goes, he wants to take his face off. Yeah, and then he's like, "All right, no more drugs for this guy."
It feels
and I was like, "Dude, this is hilarious."
It feels like the actor in the scene being like, "Did he just really?" Say the title of the movie.
Oh yeah. And I was even laughing about the safety on that too, because like he's sitting there. Well, like, you know, you're high and drunk or whatnot, but he's technically an FBI agent too, and he's like has his finger on the gun and like holding it the whole time with the finger on the trigger. And I was like, oh my God. Especially like later on when he's trying to wake up and he's like throwing water on his face and he still has the gun with the finger on the trigger. It's like, oh man. I bet whoever's armor on that was probably like just like biting his fingers the whole time. Yeah. Even though he probably like, you know, was smart.
Those gold guns are probably fucking fake. Are those? Is that a real gun?
They probably got them at a Kmart and just spray.
It doesn't even look like a real gun. Like sometimes movies will be pretty smart with having actual models of guns.
Right.
I don't know if that's a real gun. Maybe it is.
There's some weird parts, especially when they had the shooting at the church and stuff. Like, was it? I think one person had a Scorpion, submachine gun, and one guy had a weird pistol, and then then they're back to the regular ones, and Yeah.
Just feels like they're picking guns randomly, like what's gonna look cool.
Or I was even laughing when they had the OK Corral kind of scene where they're like holding guns at each other, and like all of a sudden, like what was it? One guy has a pistol and a submachine gun. I'm like, you didn't match them? Like, you just went through the armor, found whatever you could?
Yeah.
I was just like laughing about that.
You do not want to have a draw with a fucking submachine gun if you're just holding a pistol.
Well, even then, it's like if you pull a trigger on it, how's that
So
thing
many
even
bullets
not
can-
flying out of your hand? Yeah. But I don't know. I guess it's the Hollywood magic where they're just like, full auto.
I guess we can't complain too much about accuracy when we're talking about the movie Face Off. The whole plot is around a medical procedure. It doesn't work at all.
Well, the fact that like was it John Travolta and what was it Nicolas Cage are firing thousands of rounds at each other, but like everyone around them's like falling down to to beat pieces, but everybody else except for the two guys are still fighting each other.
Yeah. It's so hard to hit a lead in a movie for some reason.
I think it's immoral.
Thousands of bullets. Yeah.
You probably go to jail if you shoot the lead down right then and there. Yeah. They have to wait till the end.
You're getting into Alec Baldwin territory there. So, we try not to go there. But yeah, man, I think that's it. Unless you got anything else you want to say about the film Face Off.
Ooh, that's a good question. God, I wish we were just watching right here and just pick it apart. Like if it's what was it Mystery Science Theater at 3,000, man.
We've thought about the reason why we don't do that is because it's a huge copyright issue.
Oh, I know. But it'd be funny if we had the axe. But the thing is, John Woo would be like, I'm coming over to stomp your guts right now.
Well, they do like, I don't know if you ever heard of like riff tracks. They do that with, but the movies that they do are like really old movies that I think are in, like public
they're
domain.
ones with extremely no budget and like I think the last one I was watching called Samurai Cop. And
I've seen Samurai Cop.
Oh my God, it was so terrible. And then I remember, recently we've been doing a lot of the vertical films, and a lot of our directors are from China and stuff, and they're talking about, and one of them, she brought up Samurai Cops. I'm like,
really?
Even overseas, they know that this is the most terrible movie ever. And I was like, I'm like, thank God she cleaned it out, because like we couldn't stop laughing that they shot that movie originally with the guy with his hair growing out or something, and I guess somewhere down the line that they probably got, and like they still need to do pickup shots.
Finish it with, was he have a bad wig or something?
Oh, it was a terrible wig, yeah.
And this is the one with the bodybuilder who's like bright red, right? He's like, he's got fucking sunburn for like some of the production.
Yeah, exactly. And then even at one part, it was just like, did he take a samurai sword and cut his own wig with him? Like, this is terrible. Yeah, it is hilarious, and that's why I give props to Riff Tracks for taking that on and just making fun of it. Especially, I think there was one time where there was a part where you saw the drawer open and there's a 1911 pistol, and he tries to reach for it, and then when he pulls it out, it's a old Cowboys Western 6-shooter revolver, and I'm like, that's totally different gun.
That's the type of movie where like it was getting shot on like the weekends with like spare money. And,
100%. Like I've even seen like other ones too, where what was it? They're trying to fake that it's like what was it? Night for day shots, or was it night for day shots, where they do a kind of a filter on it to make it look like it's nighttime.
It's like a blue filter.
But then they're running through like the backyard and you see the sun, and it's
see like highlights from the sun.
Giant
That's
moon.
the thing. If you want to shoot day for night, you can't have sun highlights. Be very flat.
Yeah, and it's all blue and like like do they
We've done like trauma movies and stuff. We've never done anything that was like so low budget. Trauma movies are a little bit better, some of them at least.
Yeah.
But we handle with like real masterpieces on this show, Jonathan.
Oh my God! So we can make fun of them later on. Yeah. That's what we would do with set stories too, because it was just like we're just like, man, these things are just like, what was it? They're trying to make ordained art and stuff, and we're just sitting back there, just like, where did this money come from, and like, how funny is this?
Yeah. Well, that's it for us this week. Jonathan, thank you for joining me, buddy.
And
if you guys want to see Jonathan's other podcast, it's called Set Stories.
Set Stories, yeah.
And is that on audio platforms?
I believe it is on, what's the one that we usually have is, what was it, Apple?
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts.
That's it for this week.
Right.
I'll see you guys later.